One of my favorite things to do at Barclays Center is catching up with friends. And Paulie, I feel like you officially entered the world of BCTV and become a friend of ours. So last time I saw you was at a Brooklyn Nets game. What have you been up to since then?
Just trying to figure out my next move, my next fight. We thought we might have had a deal at one point, so I headed to training camp. I started training and stuff, but that kind of fell apart. So now I'm back in New York, and I'm here for the Hopkins-Cloud fight. While I'm in town, if there's a big fight at the Barclays Center, I got to come check it out.
Well, you're also not only a boxer, but you do on-air talent as well. So today, when you're watching, are you thinking of how am I going to analyze this, or are you thinking, man, I wish I was up there?
No, a lot of times, I'm at the point in my career where I don't wish I was up there too much. Like I like not having bumps and bruises at the end of the night. But, I always, anytime I watch fights, I always seem to analyze it. Even before I was working as a broadcaster, I was always looking at fights. And, I love watching fights with friends and talking about what I think is going on and what they think is going on. Just, having a debate about, hey, this kind of fight is this or this kind of fight is that. So it kind of translated pretty well when I started working as a broadcaster, because I feel like I'm doing that, but on television and, explaining to people at home, So it's kind of the same thing. So it's interesting. But when I'm watching a fight and I'm not working it as a broadcaster, I rarely do I think I want to be in there. Sometimes, when I think I want to be in there, when they're walking out and the crowd is just roaring, I'm like, I get goosebumps for the fighters sometimes. That's the only about it. Then when I start getting into those big exchanges, those painful punches, I'm like, I'm good out here. I'm good out here.
I feel you. But, the interesting thing about boxing that I've learned after covering it is that it's a very tight-knit family. And you saw that just now when you're talking to Kid Chocolate and Zab Judah. Like, what is it about you guys that connects you?
Well, we're all gladiators in a way. This is blood sport, and so when somebody does this for a living, this kind of combat for a living, the sacrifices they make, and there's a certain amount of respect for each other, because from the outside looking in, it's hard. Yeah, it's this and it's that. You may have your own opinion of it. Of course, everybody knows it's a tough way to make a living, but you just don't know what we go through. It's not just physical; it's the mental anguish and the stress. Training camps and getting ready for fights and just so much stuff. So when you see, it's like almost like a brotherhood. When you see another fighter, and especially another fighter that's had success, and the kind of mountains they've had to climb to reach that success, because you don't reach success in this sport without having to climb some mountains, so to speak. And so when you see that, you develop some sort of camaraderie with each other. And a lot of respect, like I said.
Well, it's been a pleasure catching up with you. I feel like you have a poker face because I can't really see your eyes.
There you are.
Well, we hope to see you soon at the Barclays Center.
Always. Thank you.